Well, what an exciting end to my day today. My name is Louise Blackburn, for those of you who don't know, and I'm going to be in the next half an hour or so, which should be a relief for some of you who are concerned about 4 p.m. meetings that you've got to be at. In the next half an hour or so, I'm hoping to give you a bit more information about the fantastic offer that the West Midlands Virtual School Children in Care Foundation have put together for the schools in the West Midlands. There is a frequently asked questions section at the end, so if you can bear with me up until that point, and if I don't cover the questions by then, please do feel free to use the Q&A or to use the chat. But also, please do appreciate that I am here on my own. Although I have 2 dogs in the room, I haven't yet managed to train them to monitor the chat. And my colleague Trevor Sutcliffe is also with me, but I know he's off to another meeting in a moment. So I'm pretty much on my own here. I will try and get to all the questions, but there may be a bit of a delay as I try and work through them as well. So what I hope to get through in this session, which is being recorded, so for those of you who've got colleagues that couldn't make it today, which is completely understandable, they'll be able to look at this afterwards. What I'm going to try and give you in this quick session is a bit of an introduction about me and the background of challenging education and the work that we do. An overview of the Thinking Differently for Disadvantaged Learners professional learning programme that those of you who sign up to this will be given access to, a little bit about the network sessions that are going to go alongside that, what your next steps need to be if you haven't already taken them, and then I just would really appreciate a bit of time at the end with anybody who's from a school in Walsall, Staffordshire or Telford and Wrekin areas, because there's a slightly different bit of information that I need to give all of you. It's only good news, but if you could stay behind at the end, then I'll be able to give you that extra information. And as I say, we've got the chat, we've got the Q&A. We've had to go over to this webinar format because we've had such a response to the programme and people wanted to come out find out more, so that's great. So as I said, my name's Louise Blackburn. I'm one of 3 directors at Challenging Education. There's 3 directors, 3 employees, that's it. It's us, and it's myself, and it's Trevor Sutcliffe, who I said is here briefly in this session, and my husband Simon Blackburn as well. And we've worked together for around about 5 or 6 years now, exclusively for Challenging Education. And the main work that we now do, which is an absolute privilege and our passion, is we work with schools almost exclusively now on their support of the most disadvantaged learners and helping them to fulfill their potential. We do this through our work that you might or might not have heard of called RADI, Raising the Attainment of Disadvantaged Youngsters, and we also do it through our professional learning programme, which you're going to find out more about now. In terms of background, I'm a secondary trained practitioner, a chemistry teacher. I've had the absolute privilege of working for Staffordshire Local Authority for some time, which is when I first started my work alongside Sarah in the virtual school in Staffordshire. I've also, since working at Challenging Education, done some work with Shropshire Virtual School as well, and that's partly why they've put together this opportunity today for all of you to join in and to network with your colleagues and with me on this programme of Thinking Differently. So it's an absolute privilege to be here, and I hope that by the end of this that you're all keen to continue working with me over the rest of this academic year. So to give you the overview right from the start, this is how things should work. If you are a school in the West Midlands, this is very, very simple because it is all funded for you by the foundation, which is absolutely brilliant, really fantastic of them to do this. So all you need to do once you've signed up on the website is that means 2 things. You will get access to Thinking Differently, as I said, which I'm going to talk more about in a moment, and you will get the opportunity to attend the network sessions that you have signed up for. The Thinking Differently resource is available for 12 months. So although the network sessions finish before the summer holidays, that resource will continue to be available to you for 12 months. It is very much a pick and mix resource, which I'll explain more about. And then by attending the network sessions, that what we will be doing there is each of the sessions, each of the networks, we will look at one particular module and one session within it in more detail. We will have at least one head teacher from one of the virtual schools within the West Midlands at each of those meetings, and they will have an opportunity to give you any updates that we need to know about. And of course, because it is a network, we do hope that there will be opportunities to share your experiences, and we'll work through the logistics of how we might be able to do that as we know the numbers that are signed up. So that's the brief overview. Let's look at things in a bit more detail now. So this is the professional learning programme that myself, Simon and Trevor put together over the last 12 months or so. And this is designed, as it says here, to really focus on disadvantaged learners. Now, the definition of disadvantage will vary from school to school. It will vary from region to region, I have no doubt. But essentially, we are looking at those youngsters who most need the extra from us in school. And that's how we've designed the programme. So what is the programme? It is a suite of short videos. They are not sequential. So probably the biggest learning point for Simon, Trevor and I, since we put this together, was calling them modules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Very much gives the impression that you have to work through them in that order. You don't have to do that at all. You can dip in and out of them as you want. So they are not sequential, and they're packed full of short videos because time is of the essence. The modules, there are 6 of them. And each of the 6 modules, there's well over 90 minutes of short videos in each of them. They range from one of us doing an in-depth look at a particular area, to the 3 of us having conversations, to us talking to invited guests, to us talking to leaders in schools about their experiences supporting the disadvantaged youngsters. And there's a variety of different things there for you to get involved in. And what we've also done is we've made sure that where it is relevant, the sessions are also supported with additional reading that people might want to look at, activity sheets for them to do back in the classroom with students that they're thinking about, and just generally trying to make that transition from thinking differently to acting differently a bit easier to get the hang of. So if I just click the right button, here's how it looks. As I say, there are 6 modules. You can see there 5 of the modules. This is how it looks when you log on to the resource. You can see 5 of them on the screen at the moment. We'll put the 6th one on in just a second. On the first thing you will see is that introduction to thinking differently. And I would urge you, when you do get access to this resource, do take a couple of minutes to have a look at that, and to see what the whole content is, and to see what's happening across all 6 of the modules. As you can see there, they've all got different titles to them and a little bit of information about them underneath. And then we've got here module 6, taking the reins. I just thought we'd look at that one in a bit more detail. So that's that reflection, evaluation, and taking those next steps there, impact and next steps. So let's just have a look at that. If you clicked on module 6 within the resource, this is what you would see. At the top of each one of our modules, there is a video for those of you who like to watch and listen that gives an overview. And there is also a downloadable PDF of the contents of that resource underneath it. So you can have a look at that, read through the list, and hopefully you will find something there that is of interest to you and relevant to what you are currently doing in your role in school. And I will talk a bit more about that in a couple of minutes. So if we just take one video, let's say we're reading through this and we think that we like the sound of the position of knowledge, that's interesting to what we're doing currently. So you can scroll down the page and find that video. It tells you how long it is. You can see this one's just under 14 minutes long. So in terms of scheduling this and working out if you've got time to do it, you know what you've got. And in addition, you can see there that there is an activity there that goes with the resource. If you click on that, you download this support sheet that goes with it that basically says, right, now you've watched the video, here's some reminders of the key points, the key questions for you, and you can take that away and go and reflect on it within your school. So that is very much the format of all of the modules and all of the sessions within those modules. So for you, for colleagues who work in the kind of roles that you do, so most of you here today are in roles like that of a designated teacher, you might be a vulnerable learners lead, any of those types of roles, the ways in which you might want to use thinking differently. You might want to just use it as your own professional development resource. We've had a couple of people contact us who are using it as part of their master's programme, because we always reference our research and we put the links on if they're available. People have been able to really dig in quite detail into some of the areas we've covered. So it might just be that you want to use it for your own professional development. What we also hope, and what I know that the foundation are quite keen on this doing, is this being something that you can use if you are in your role as designated teacher, leading some training in the school. Then you will be able to log onto this resource, put it onto the screen and use one of those videos as part of a training session. It might save you a bit of time. You can use the resource with your group of staff that you're working with and doing that training on, and it might fit into what you're trying to do that staff development on at the moment. And of course, what we really hope and where we really get excited about hearing from schools is that hopefully you will also be thinking about a particular child. Now, if you work in primary or secondary phase, this still applies. You might use this resource as a starting point for action research. So you take one of those sessions, you take the downloadable resource and you focus on one child and you carry out some action research to see if you can make a difference to that young person and the experience they're having in school through your support. And of course, it might also provide support for your plans. So if you're going to senior teachers in the school and you're asking for a particular approach to be taken, these videos might provide you with the evidence you need to put forward that proposal and to support your plans for improvement for those children who may be previously looked after or under the care of a social worker and therefore fall onto your responsibility. So there's some ways in which you might consider using that resource. Now, I mentioned that we've put in place an introduction to thinking differently now. I just wanted to draw your attention to something which I think would be where I would start if I was going onto this resource for the first time. When you click on an introduction to thinking differently, you'll see straight away in front of you there that there is an overview of all modules. That is downloadable, and therefore, if you want to, you can print off a copy of that. And what it gives you there is every overview just in one document of each of the modules. So do have a look at that, and then you can sit down and maybe have them either electronically or printed off and think about what your priorities are at the moment and how you might like to use this resource. So that's telling you a little bit about the resource Thinking Differently for Disadvantaged Learners. And I wanted to move on and just briefly talk about what we plan to do in the network meetings. And when I say we, that's myself and of course the head teachers of the virtual schools, as I mentioned, will be attending on some sort of rotational basis to give their update as well. So that's the first thing, is it's going to be a great way to hear some headline news, perhaps latest changes to some processes that we need to know about in schools in our role as designated teachers or vulnerable learner lead. Get that latest information out to us and to make sure that we know what we're doing to support those learners. What I will be doing and what will be taking up the majority of that 1 hour networking session is I'll be taking one session from one module, and that's in the titles of those networking sessions that you can sign up to. I will be taking one of those sessions and I'll be looking at it in more detail, and I will be particularly looking at it in terms of looked after children, previously looked after children, how I think it might apply. I might cover something in a bit more detail than I did in one of the videos that you can access. I might try and take it beyond thinking differently to giving some more suggestions about how you might act differently based on the contents of the session that we're talking about. And also, I hope that I will be able to give you some ideas about how you might evaluate the impact, because all of you will be participating in action research and seeing if these things make a difference in the classroom. As I've mentioned before, we have called them networking sessions for a reason. We really do hope that we'll be able to hear from colleagues during those sessions. Obviously, we need to just sort out the logistics of that because of the numbers, but nothing is beyond us, and we will get that sorted. So we also want to give the opportunity for some of those who are attending the session to be able to either share their experiences relating to the topic we're talking about, or perhaps their thoughts on what they're going to go and try in the school, or maybe as the network sessions move on, they might talk about things that they've tried that they heard about from previous sessions. And my overall aim of each of those 1 hour sessions is to make sure you have something very practical to take away from it. And you know, I'll be looking for your feedback there to tell me whether I'm achieving that and adjusting accordingly. So if we think about what we've covered so far, hopefully I've answered a few of the questions that you had as you bought them. You came to this session to try and find out more. But let's just go over some of these things that we've been asked already. So the first question that a lot of people have asked, quite rightly, is, do I have to come to all the network sessions? Now, I must be honest, nobody's asked it in a negative way. It's just a case of the dates clash with things that are already in the diary. There's other things on. The answer is absolutely not. You do not have to come to all of the network sessions. Of course, we'd love to see you at all of them, but you do not have to come to all of the network sessions. The next question, which is completely understandable, as you are all very busy people with very important jobs in school already, is, hang on a minute, Louise, you've just told me there's 6 modules, there's 90 minutes of materials in each of them. There's no way I've got time to work through all of them. So the answer to this question, again, is absolutely, you are not expected to complete all the modules before the session, by the next session, or anything like that. What we would absolutely emphasize here is, as I said at the start, this is a pick and mix model. So you should be aiming to look for what is interesting to you, and by all means, if you can come to the first network, have a look at module 1 to start with, because that would tie in with it, and to look at 1 or 2 of those sessions if you get time, and to think about how they might influence your practice, and be prepared to talk about them in a network meeting if you feel like doing that sort of thing. So you don't have to complete all the modules. It is about picking what you're most interested in. There is no pre-reading for a session, so I wouldn't want you to hesitate about signing up for a network session because you know you haven't got time to watch any videos beforehand. I am confident you will still get something from the session, even if you haven't had a chance to watch any of the videos from the module that we're focusing on. Monitoring. Because of the nature of our job, we're always thinking about, oh, who's monitoring? Who's checking what I've done? We do not and would not want to in any way monitor who has logged on and how many times you've logged on and how long you've spent on what module. So firstly, be assured we don't want to do that. And secondly, be assured our technology doesn't stretch that either. So even if we wanted to, we couldn't do that. So we won't be monitoring how long you spend on a module, or indeed whether you've logged on or not. We're acting as professionals here, as you would expect. Another question which tends to come to my mind, certainly, especially when I'm being offered something that is fully funded, is about what you need to submit or do, what deadlines are there, what paperwork has to be submitted, etc. The most we're going to ask you to do is to complete a very quick survey after the events to say whether you found it useful or not. And that is so that the foundation can evaluate whether they have spent their money wisely on giving schools access to this resource and the network sessions. So again, that won't be compulsory, but we would very much appreciate it if you filled in the questionnaire. But other than that, we will not be asking you to do anything in particular or submit anything. We'd love to hear from you at the network meetings, and we always love to get emails telling us about use of the resources, but none of that is expected. Now, I have noticed from the sign up from the people, the sign up delegate list that Tanisha sent me through just before this meeting, I have noticed that we have got some schools who've signed up who are not within the West Midlands. Now, that's fabulous, really great. But in terms of your involvement, I'm going to have to ask you to drop an email to the Children in Care Foundation so they can work out the logistics of how we can involve schools from outside of the West Midlands. And hopefully we can find a way to do that. So don't be put off, but do send them an email via the contact on the website to ask them about how you can get involved. So I'm just going to pause for a moment because I've noticed the chat's just gone up a bit. So I'll just see if anything. Oh, I see Trev is doing an amazing job answering everything for me. Thank you, Trevor. I think he might have left shortly, but he's talking about answering the questions in there. Thank you very much. A fully booked session, I believe that Tanisha can sort that out for us in terms of fully booked because they're virtual. But again, if we can't answer it now, we'll get back to you. Okay, I think Trevor has done a brilliant job there of making sure everything is covered. Thank you, Trevor. So I did say I would try and keep you until about 4 o'clock rather than for the full 4:30 session. So what do you need to do next? If you haven't done it already, do make sure that you go onto the West Midlands Virtual School Children in Care website, which is the website is there for you, the web address, and get yourself registered onto those sessions, the network sessions that you want to attend. If some of them are showing as full at the moment, do go back on again in a few days' time to see if we've managed to release some more places for those events. And if we get to the point where we can't reach that capacity, we'll have another think and we'll work out a way of making sure that everybody who's interested gets an opportunity to do these networks. So we really want everybody to be part of this who wants to be. So once you're confirmed as attending a session, a network session, you will be sent the login details for the professional learning programme, and that is accessed via our website, which is challengingeducation.co.uk. And in that email where it gives you the login details, please do remember that they are unique to you and they are not to be shared further than you in your role in school. If you've got other people who you think within your school who would also benefit from both the networks and the access to the materials, by all means, encourage them to sign up for a network event, and therefore they will be given their login details for the resource as well. So that's what you can do if you've got more than one person involved. I think that's probably everything from me, and I think that so somebody's already answering the question about the schools outside of the West Midlands. So we're looking at ways that we can include them, which is fantastic. And indeed, Tanisha has kindly put her email address in the chat as well in terms of booking places and queries about being outside of the area. So we'll get things covered one way or another. So finally, I suspect probably everybody will stay because they're dying to know what I'm going to tell Telford and Wrekin, Staffordshire or Walsall. But that's everything I wanted to say about thinking indifferently. If you do work in a school in Telford and Wrekin, Staffordshire or Walsall, and by that specifically, I do mean in those schools rather than having children who are looked after who are in Telford and Wrekin. So if you work in a school in those three areas, if you could stay behind for just a couple more minutes. Otherwise, I very much look forward to seeing you all in the network events. And Steve's just asked a question. Yes, you do book for each event individually. There's only 6 of them, and it just gives an opportunity for you to decide which ones you can and can't go to. So hopefully it isn't too much hassle to do that. But yes, you do need to book for each event individually. Booking for one event gives you the access to the resource, so you don't keep getting sent that over and over again. Hopefully that answers your question. So thank you very much, everybody. That's me on Twitter as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I just tend to post about dogs and disadvantage. So if they're the sorts of things you're interested in, then please do follow me on Twitter. And otherwise, as I say, I just want to talk to Staffordshire, Walsall and Telford and Wrekin schools. So I'm going to pause for a moment while people leave who don't need to hear that message, and then I'm going to talk to the rest of the group. And I don't know, Tanisha, if you can turn off the recording at this point, because probably we've said everything that's relevant. If not, we can edit it afterwards. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time.